Welcome to The Explainer. I am so glad you're joining us today because, well, we're going to look at something most of us take completely for granted. Think back to when you first learned to write. For a whole lot of us, actually, let's be honest, it is remembered as an incredibly tedious chore, right? Cramping hands, endless repetitive worksheets, and just sheer frustration. But what if I told you that handwriting doesn't actually have to be a struggle? What if instead it's this fascinating piece of hidden neuromuscular architecture? Today, we're looking at how the Montessori method completely reverse engineers the way we develop fine motor skills. It's like a giant puzzle, and it's absolutely brilliant.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this is the seemingly impossible question that sits at the very heart of the Montessori approach to handwriting. How do you teach a child to write before they ever actually hold a pencil? It sounds like a total paradox, right? If you want to get good at writing, shouldn't you just, practice writing? Well, it turns out that if you start by just handing a child a pencil, you are actually starting way, way too late in the process.
See, the traditional view basically treats handwriting as an isolated skill that just needs to be drilled into you. You get a piece of lined paper, a pencil, and you just drill letters until you get it right. And honestly, it's often painful and frustrating because the hand simply isn't physically ready for it yet. The Montessori view, on the other hand, treats writing as the end product of a super long chain of physical development. It's all about building a neuromuscular architecture from the ground up. You don't start by building the roof, you start with a rock-solid foundation. And this developmental timeline perfectly maps out the logic behind that foundation. We're moving from the absolute largest muscles down to the absolute smallest, most precise ones. Starting right around age 2.5, the focus is entirely on whole arm movement. Then, we refine it down to a whole hand grasp. By age 4, the child is working on isolating the pincer grasp, those specific fingers we use for holding a writing tool. And finally, around 4.5 or older, they achieve a controlled pencil grip. So it's this incredibly systematic progression from gross movement all the way down to fine motor control.
Let's look at Stage 1, the engine, also known as practical life.
And this brilliantly illustrates how surprising this method is. To an outside observer, this first stage doesn't look like handwriting preparation at all. It just looks like a kid doing totally mundane chores. But look at what is actually happening beneath the surface. When a child is squeezing sponges to transfer water, they aren't just playing around. They're actively building serious hand strength. When they use tweezers to move tiny beans, they're isolating that finger grip. And my absolute favorite part, scrubbing a table, those big, sweeping, circular motions, that is literally stealthy ninja training for crucial wrist and forearm stability. Because think about it, without that physical stamina, a hand simply cannot maintain steady pressure on a pencil without getting completely exhausted.
Which brings us to Stage 2, the sensors, or sensorial refinement.
Okay, so once the engine is built and we have that baseline strength, the child really needs to refine their senses. Because writing, well, it isn't just about strength, is it? It's about incredible physical sensitivity. So a major focus here is tactile discrimination. Before they ever hold a writing instrument, children are working with materials like rough and smooth touch boards or little boxes filled with different textured fabrics. They are quite literally refining the nerve endings right there in their fingertips. This heightened sense of touch is absolutely critical. Why? Because it's exactly what allows a child to naturally sense and self-regulate how hard they are pressing down when they finally do pick up a pencil. Without this step, kids tend to either press down so hard they rip the paper right in half or so lightly that you can barely even see the mark.
Right alongside building that tactile sensitivity, they are zeroing in on the actual mechanics of the grip. Take the tiny little knobs on Montessori cylinders, for example. They're specifically sized that the child literally has no choice but to use their thumb, index, and middle fingers to pick them up. Whether they're using tweezers or sorting tiny objects by color and size, all these activities demand the exact 3-finger pincer grip used for a pencil. It's just pure, targeted neuromuscular control training.
Moving right along to Stage 3, the mechanical bridge.
Now, we reach this incredibly cool turning point. The child has the wrist strength, they've got the tactile sensitivity, and that perfect pincer grip. So that foundation is finally applied to handling a writing tool, primarily through something called the metal insets. So a child takes a pencil, they trace the inside and outside of a geometric metal frame, and then carefully fill that shape with parallel lines. And this step-by-step process is doing something really profound. It's training the hand to stay within physical boundaries while maintaining a proper relaxed grip. They're rehearsing consistent light pressure over and over again. They are literally building the muscular memory for the exact curves and straight lines they're going to need to form letters later on, all without the cognitive overload of actually trying to spell or write a word yet.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we finally introduce actual letters into the physical process.
We do this using a concept called multisensory encoding. Basically, we're going to engage the brain simultaneously through multiple senses to link all that physical movement directly to linguistic meaning.
And the tool used for this is just brilliant. Sandpaper letters. Instead of using a pencil, the child uses the very two fingers they've been training, the index and middle finger, to trace the textured surface of a letter cut out of sandpaper. So they are hitting three senses all at once, feeling the rough shape tactilely, seeing the symbol visually, and hearing the sound of the letter spoken out loud. By tracing it repeatedly like this, they're hardwiring the habit of moving left to right and top to bottom right into their muscles, well before they've ever even attempted to draw the letter freehand.
And even when they are finally ready to form those symbols independently, we still don't rush straight to tiny lines on a piece of paper. Instead, we start with low-stakes practice. Children practice early symbol formation using erasable, tactile mediums. Think sand trays, salt trays, or big chalkboards. Why do we do this? Well, because large muscle movements are just so much easier to control than small ones. If a kid makes a mistake in a sand tray, a simple little shake of the tray erases it completely. It avoids the high-stakes frustration of making a permanent mark with a pencil on a tiny piece of paper, which keeps the learning joyful and stress-free.
And that leads us to the final stage, the anticlimactic result.
So the crucial point is, the climax of this whole story is actually a deliberate lack of one. As the sources point out in this genuinely fantastic quote, the writing itself is almost anticlimactic because the neuromuscular work is already done. Just think about the sheer genius of that for a second. By the time a Montessori child is finally handed a piece of paper and asked to write a letter, their hand has already rehearsed the grip, the precise pressure, the exact directionality, and the shape countless times. The physical struggle, it's completely removed. The actual act of writing on paper is just a totally natural, effortless extension of what they have already mastered.
I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder today. We've just seen how reverse engineering the physical foundation of handwriting turns a notoriously difficult, frustrating task into an anticlimactic victory. It kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? If we prepared for all the difficult tasks in life, whether that's in education, in our careers, or just in our personal growth, by patiently building such strong, hidden foundations first, what else could become anticlimactic? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep building those foundations, and I will see you next time.